Okay, let's dive right in. This is the information you needed yesterday. So, when we get married and we have all these ideals and expectations that we have this idea of how our marriage is going to go, how our partner is going to be, and everything. And then that moment happens when your spouse has a meltdown. And it's like, oh, um, this is the part of marriage I didn't quite picture and wasn't quite prepared for. So here's what do you do? Here's what you do. You let them have a meltdown. You don't criticize, you don't judge, you do none of that. You love them more, you try to understand, and you're an anchor and you're there for them. There was several times where I totally was just like, and it was over dumb things. It's usually over dumb things. I totally had a meltdown. I was so frustrated. I was tired and I was just freaking out over the kids. And my husband was an angel. And anytime I've ever had a meltdown, he does two things. One, either he'll just let me have my meltdown, totally just leave me to it, or he will just hug me and love me and let me know, hey, it's okay, it's gonna be okay. And he's there. He's just there. He's an anchor. He lets me have my meltdown. He lets me. And whenever he has a meltdown, I'm like, okay, here we go, right? Deep breath here, anchor ourselves, whatever it is they're upset about, as silly as it is, or as traumatic as it is, we let them and we love them. Let them love them and be an anchor for them. This is what you do. This is what I like to call doing, living a higher way, doing marriage a higher way. We are not going to, no longer are starting today. I hope you join me. No longer buy into this whole societal thing. When somebody freaks out or whatever, you immediately run to your best friend and you start going, "Oh, I can't believe, my husband, la la la, and he's freaked out over this." And he just threw, and he punched a hole in the wall or whatever it is, and just like, and then your best friend's like, "Oh, what a jerk," or "That's horrible, maybe you should rethink, why you married him." No, none of that. None of that. Just stop. Okay. We are here to live higher, to live better. This is a moment for you to step outside of yourself and put yourself in your spouse's shoes and to try to understand where they're coming from, why they're having the meltdown in the first place. Now, there is a difference. We have to make a disclaimer here, real quick. But obviously, if you have a spouse who is physically abusing you and taking whatever meltdown he's having out on you physically, that is not okay. That is a problem. That is a reason to go to your best friend and say, "I need help. I'm being hurt," right? Or go to a professional, preferably, right? Get help and get out of it. Now, another disclaimer on that note, too, is there is always a possibility that the person has anger issues, but they're not necessarily a terrible human being. They have issues that they need help with. They need professional help. Because I do know of someone who was abusive physically. He had all these issues, but he had a life-changing moment, realized, oh my goodness, I need to and like they were, him and his wife, obviously on the brink of divorce. They were separated at the time, but he totally life changed, turned things around, and now they have like the most amazing relationship ever. And he is such a good guy. Just think, this is true. 90, probably 99% of people are generally so good inside. We all have really good intentions. We're human. We make mistakes. We have emotions that come up, and some, for others, it's stronger. Some may even have like mental, issues or PTSD, whatever it may be. But like these are moments that we can learn, that we can be able to help, you know, if we have a spouse who is freaking out. Obviously, if you're in a situation where you're being physically harmed, you got to walk away. You got to go, right? Right. But then again, like I said, those kind of situations also can be repaired if the person is genuinely a good person. But there are people out there who are literally just all for themselves. They do not care about others. But we're not here to discuss those people here today. Okay. We're here to discuss normal, generally good hearted people, right? So, I'm a person. I work really hard for my family. I love my children. I do my best to like make sure my children are fed and clothed. I do my part, right? Cleaning the house, doing all the back business stuff for my husband and I. And my husband, he goes to work every day. He works so hard for our family to the point where he comes home and his body just aches. He works so hard. He's very loving. He makes sure that not only do we have the things we need, but we also have things that we want. He spoils my children on their birthdays and Christmas. He just is amazing. But then, am I going to just throw all that away because he had a meltdown one day and he maybe he punched a hole in the wall? Is he going to throw all the good things away and how I support him away just because I had a meltdown one day? Just because I started screaming and yelling, at all the things I'm frustrated about or whatever? Is he going to just be like, well, I'm out. I'm sorry. I can do all good, happy fun Buffy, but I can't do this like meltdown Buffy. So I'm out of here. Sorry. I'm sorry to for all of you who are not aware, but we all have a meltdown moment. We all have our moments. But women, they have a lot of emotions, especially if you're a mother. You have all these things, that go on. And there at any point, a monkey wrench just is randomly thrown in your path and you trip over and you're like, oh, or it hits you in the face and you're like, "Oh, we're human. We're human. So we need to make sure we have a lot of grace for each other's humanness. Okay. So, ladies, if you have a husband who maybe has PTSD or anything like that, or they have a meltdown, or you're having a meltdown, remember, you made vows when you got married. You made a vow that you would, in sickness, in health, they really need to add in there in frustration and meltdowns. They need to put that in there specifically because, and we need to be teaching each other better. Like, I remember watching the example of my mother and my father and how they reacted to each other when each other was having, issues. Although they tried to, like, hide it from us kids, they tried to make sure that we had a good view of things. But I really paid attention because nobody necessarily sat me down and said, "Oh, by the way, your spouse might have me- mental meltdowns." I can talk, and and nobody sat. I'm pretty sure no one sat my husband down and said, "By the way, your wife might be a little emotional and hormonal." Although I think he kind of picked that up from having sisters, right? So, that there would be a lot of emotions to deal with because, I mean, come on, we have a lot of emotions to deal with. It's just reality. It's truth. We're female. It's how we're born, right? And so nobody is just sitting there telling us, and here, you know what? Those are the times when you need to be there for them and love them all the more and be an anchor. And so if you didn't get that, which I didn't either, luckily I had parents who gave me great examples that I watched and paid attention to, right? So I learned these things along the way. But if you haven't been taught that, well, here's your lesson right now. Okay, a meltdown is not a reason to say I'm out of here. It's not. So that doesn't mean that the person whom you're married to is also suddenly a bad person. We need to take the good with the bad. That's part of life. I like the little show Bluey, if you've ever heard of it. It's a cute episode, and I don't remember what the whole episode entailed, but she's teaching her daughter, you've got to take the good with the bad. Like, there is, sadness and bad and whatever in life, but and there's so much good in life, but there's also some bad. that's just not fun to deal with, right? That, yeah, it would be lovely if I was, a sunflower all day, every day, 24/7, and I never had any, sadness or issues. I'd be so amazing to deal with all the time. And who wouldn't want to be married to me, right? But then that's not reality. I have emotions and feelings. So if I have a moment, I'm hoping that my husband will be there for me. And same with him. I'm like, oh, he would definitely be there for me if I was having a moment. So I'm definitely going to be there for him when he's having his moment, no matter how stupid it is. Maybe he got upset at someone at a store, right, and made a scene, or maybe your wife made a scene, and you were at a store or whatever the scene is. Maybe somebody had road rage and they honked and they did all these things, and you're like, ah, maybe these things happen. It is okay. It is okay. That does not make them a bad person. It just makes them human. And we need to, again, just love every part of each other, human, because you can literally love the humanness out of them. You can help someone improve their anger issues, their the way that they think, that might be like, oh, then the negative thinking, whatever, just by loving them through it. Seriously. So, like, as an example, my my darling son, him and I just butted heads all the time. I was always just yelling at him, and he was always yelling at me back. And we were just like all the time. And if any of you have heard my podcast, you've probably heard me give this example again, but time and time again, it works. So here we are, we're saying it again. And I would complain to my mother-in-law, like, oh, I just can't get him to do anything. He doesn't listen. He's so distracted, blah, blah, blah. I'd complain to my husband. I'd complain. Didn't matter who. And when somebody would comment, like, oh, your son's so sweet, or your son's this, yeah, I know, but I wish he was this way at home, I would follow up with that. I would totally excuse the compliments and say, yeah, but he's la 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 la, right? My son cannot thrive off of me thinking that way. So I remember my mom used to treat me the way that she was hoping I would turn out to be. Like, she just believed it and she said it as though it were already true. This is called manifesting, which I'm sure I've mentioned before too in my podcast. So here you go again. So I heard my mother in my head. I could just hear her, just like, you need to be more positive when you talk about him. And I'm just like, okay. So I changed things around and I literally started speaking to people as though he already was. I'm like, oh yeah, Riley's so wonderful. And I'd start picking out the things that he did that was amazing. I'm just like, oh, good job. And I compliment him on everything. I'm just like, and I would even say, even though he was like, you're so good at paying attention, Riley, even though, I'm just like, I don't feel like he's good at paying attention. I just start complimenting on the things and started treating him like he already was a good listener, really good at staying on task with schoolwork and chores and whatever it was. I treated him as though he already was doing it. And you know what happened? Within just a few months, all of a sudden, he's doing his chore. And I'm like, are you doing your chore right now? Because he never, ever, 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 none of my kids ever did a chore without me telling him it's time to do your chore. And he's doing his chore. And I'm like, you're you're doing your chore? And he's like, well, did dad ask you? And he's like, no, I just decided, I just know it's time to do it. And I started doing it. And I'm like, I literally asked him, are you broken? And he's just like, started laughing. I'm just like, and then he started working at his schoolwork. I homeschool, and he's doing it all on his own. And he's been doing this for the last like 3 years. He just started doing it by himself. And I would ask him, like, well, how can I support you in your schoolwork? Just leave me alone, mom. I'll get it done. And he's not wrong. He gets it done. And I'm like, holy cow, like the change. What, it's just literally night and day. He's my most dedicated kid, and he was the hardest one to get anything done. He's always there when I need him. And I'd even tell him that too. I was just like, Riley, you're always there when I need you. I would say that to him all the time. And it is so true. And he never paid attention to before to this ever, but he'll see that I'm struggling with something. He immediately, like, like I had all this stuff to carry in, and I was just automatically grabbing it all. And he had already ran in the house to do whatever because we'd gotten back from karate or whatever. And then all of a sudden he comes right back out and he starts grabbing stuff for me and goes inside the house. And I was just like, what? I'm just like, what is this? Who are you? Like, but I'm serious. Like, and it was because I started just loving him and treating him like he was already an amazing young man. And he started mirroring that. So if you want to have, an amazing relationship, you already have to start treating your relationship as though it is already that way. You start acting and feeling that way so that you will start to, it's a subconscious thing, it's a science thing, whatever. You start getting what you want because you start treating people as such, you start feeling as such, you start acting as such, and your whole environment starts changing around you. It is amazing. It is absolutely amazing. So, okay, I hope this helps anyone who needs this because I know that if I were newly getting married, I would want someone to sit down and say this with me. I think this system needs to be more normalized. Now, okay, so a little advertisement here. I am hosting on October 1st a challenge. It's called Stop Arguing and Start Living. And it is a challenge totally around gratitude. I have a workbook and everything. I have little slides that go with the workbook. And so October 1st, I'm going to drop this. So if you want to be part of this challenge, you'll need to sign up on my email list. So you go to bsyourway.com and you subscribe to my email. I think it's at the bottom of each page, but it's definitely at the bottom of the first. It should be at the bottom of the first page. So subscribe to my email and join the challenge. I'm actually going to create a little bar at the top when you go to my website where it says join the challenge. You can click it and you can start joining the challenge or whatever. But it's going to drop October 1st, and the whole month of October we are going to focus on gratitude. I have weekly exercises for you to participate in. I also will be showing up on social media and I'll be giving little, blurbs and examples of, how to help you out and things like that. And I will be there. I'm a support. Please DM me, DM me, DM me, DM me. Feel free to email me, whatever works better for you. Just so you know, emails can get lost because I get a lot. So, yes, DM me, reach out to me, whatever it is. I'm here to support you. I want you to succeed. I want this challenge to give you real results, to really change things around. If you feel like you're stuck and your relationship is just struggling, please, please let me help you. I want to help you. So, all right. I hope you all have a great day. And thank you for joining me today. You all are so amazing. You've got this. You're more amazing than you think. Your relationship is already more beautiful than you think. So you got this. All right. Rock on.